It'd be a good choice.
Buongiorno ambasciatore, a prescindere da chi verrà eletto, pensa che nella prossima legislatura si arriverà a regolamentare meglio l'accesso e l'uso delle armi da parte dei privati cittadini, come voleva fare ad esempio Obama? Grazie.
Well, I hope so. I'd have to say America's policy on guns is absolutely crazy. It's indefensible. We are just, I mean, the world can't understand how we could have over 300 million guns in circulation in America. This is an issue I've cared deeply about and spent a lot of my career working on trying to get sensible, reasonable gun regulations in place, but it's very hard because we have an organization called the National Rifle Association that's powerful, that intimidates our members of Congress because they threaten. If you don't vote with them, they will raise money to go against you, and they do. And so as a consequence, we can't get anything reasonable passed in our Congress. Now, you have to keep with that issue. I know Hillary Clinton's position on gun control is a good one. You know, it's incremental. You just can't come in and what they always claim you're going to do, take everybody's guns away. No one's proposing that. But there are a lot of proposals that will make sure you have background checks on people that buy them, that you'll get rid of military-style weapons, you know, that people can buy now with magazines, and you read about these shootings that go on in a movie theater or a hospital. These are military weapons that people can get. Now, that's crazy. I mean, there's no way I can defend on behalf of my country that policy. I think it's terrible. And it's, you know, and Americans don't appreciate how alone we are in the world by the gun policies that we have. And they don't appreciate how many deaths occur per population. We are like 20 times higher per population than I'm sure Italy or Japan. We're like 40 times higher. You know, it's crazy. And people keep working on it, and I think some point we're going to have to make that change, and it's just been really difficult.
Eccellenza, molti autorevoli commentatori stanno mettendo in luce come il sistema delle primarie americane sia in qualche modo da riformare perché non sarebbe sufficientemente democratico. Ad esempio, alcuni mettono in evidenza come le regole tra gli stati siano molto diverse, alcuni stati votino molto presto potendo influire quindi maggiormente sul risultato della campagna, oppure come la conta dei delegati non garantisca sufficientemente, solo pensando alla presenza dei superdelegati, la democraticità dell'intero processo. Lei condivide questi punti, queste argomentazioni? E nel caso come riformerebbe questo sistema? Grazie.
Well, you've identified the issue. Right now, election rules are set by each individual state, and they vary. You know, it wasn't too long ago that for primaries, there weren't any primaries, that the determination as to whom will represent the Republican Party or the Democratic Party was made by party officials. And it really didn't change significantly until the election of 1912, when Teddy Roosevelt tried to run as the third party. I think right now we have a more democratic primary system than we've ever had, but you are right. They vary state to state to state. Overall, if you look at votes cast and who's getting the delegates, it's a pretty fair representation. Whether you should have a federal rule saying every state will follow the same rules, that runs against the grain of states' rights, and every state should be able to determine its own rules. What we have in America that's not good is our states and parties trying to limit the access that people have to the ballot box. I mean, for example, they say you have to have a voter ID to be able to vote. Well, that discriminates against minorities, mostly on older people who don't have. But that's why they enacted. That's why they went. There's no voter fraud. They say that. There's no evidence of voter fraud. And they limit the times that you can vote. They limit the number of places that you can vote. Everything that they've done is this Republican initiative in some states is designed to discourage people from voting. That's terrible. And you have a Supreme Court, by the way, that on a 5-4 vote upheld and overturned a rule that was designed to review every state's attempt to change those rules. And that's another issue that a new Supreme Court, a new justice, would be able to revisit that issue, and I think they would reverse it. But I think, you know, it's pretty democratic if you look at the votes cast and who gets the delegates.
Buongiorno, Eccellenza. Io volevo fare una domanda sul partito repubblicano. Come, visto lo stato attuale di Donald Trump, che sta creando molto imbarazzo all'interno del partito stesso, che praticamente il partito è letteralmente lacerato, se questo potrebbe stravolgere il quadro futuro dei repubblicani, addirittura portare a uno scioglimento del partito. Grazie.
Well, I'm not a Republican, so it's not something I can do. But you're right. There's no question what's happened with Mr. Trump. He's captured the Republican Party in a way that is totally against what most of the party regulars, those in Washington, those who've been controlling the apparatus of the party, had intended. In fact, they're appalled by the notion that Donald Trump could be the Republican nominee. They especially are concerned about the risk that he will affect all the elections in the House and House of Representatives and in the Senate, and that they would stand a real risk of losing the majorities that they have now. And I think that's true. I think that is a risk. So you're right to identify that the party regulars have absolutely no support for Mr. Trump, but they're stuck. And a lot of this they brought on themselves, of stoking the anger that many of the, which has been written about a lot, many of the Republicans didn't stand up before in their own party when they were making, taking similar actions that give rise to racism, xenophobia, and immigration, all those issues. This is a real wake-up call for the Republican Party, and they stand to have devastating consequences from this if it goes to the point where Mr. Trump is nominated, then loses very badly by a 15-point margin or so that almost ensures that there'll be a turnover to Democratic control of the House and the Senate. So that's up to them to fix their party. Every party makes their own rules, and it's nothing the government can do.
Buongiorno, mi chiamo Andrea Pintus, sono uno studente di architettura. La mia domanda è: secondo lei il duello tra la Clinton e Sanders è ancora aperto, e se no, come legge il tentativo di Sanders di non gettare ancora la spugna? Grazie.
Well, I think it's over because it's mathematically pretty much impossible for Bernie Sanders to get enough delegates necessary to get the nomination. And if you see the incremental count week to week, Hillary Clinton has a substantial lead. Now, a lot of those votes that she has come from what are called, party delegates. There's a portion of the delegates that are selected by the party that they have a vote. And so typically, like every senator has a vote, every members of the House of Representatives has a vote. They're not elected, but they have a vote. And she is getting 90% of those, which will give her enough to get the nomination. So, that's a real question for Bernie Sanders as as he travels the country. He's getting enormous crowds, but there's no way he can be the nominee. And I think he is a Democrat. He's running as a Democrat. That the question will be, when is Bernie Sanders going to understand that he will not be able to get the nomination? So therefore, he should do everything to get his voters to support the candidacy of Hillary Clinton, because that issue came up just last week, and he was asked, well, will you throw your support of your people, not that he controls them all, once you decide not to proceed on the theory that you can't win, to Hillary Clinton. And his response was, no, that's everybody's individual decision to make. Now, that's not a good response, because when asked back in 2008, when Hillary Clinton was running against Barack Obama in the primary, she finally did drop out, around this time. And when what she did is to say, I'm now dropping out, I want everybody to get behind Barack Obama because he's clearly the best candidate for president. That's what we need to see, Mr. Sanders. You got to, this guy, as I mentioned, he's had the ride of his life. He's been out there getting huge crowds, and I've not been to any of them, but I see them on television in ways that he can't quite believe. He's getting young people. I mean, huge percentages of young people. So I'm sure it's hard for him to say the game is over. He has been raising $50 million a month on small contributions. He always says average $27 per person. That's quite a feat. That's quite a feat. Now, I think those are trailing off as it becomes clear that he has no clear way to get the nomination. But Democrats got to come together, and as they did in 2008, when the very strong feelings about Hillary Clinton running then against this new upstart president or candidate, Barack Obama. But in the end, they all did coalesce around Barack Obama's candidacy and did elect him with a pretty significant margin. So we'll see how that. I think he may just want to be able to continue to raise the issues, and that gives him the ability to influence and shape the policy of the party. He certainly has pushed Hillary Clinton to the left. I don't think there's any question about that, so he can take credit for that to the extent that that was his objective, and I think it was. But we'll see.
I think that's all for today.
Ora il Rettore consegnerà il sigillo dell'Ateneo a Sua Eccellenza l'Ambasciatore John Phillips.